Okay, part 2 of the overview of all the documents that we can select from on Forms Pro. We're on the section of lease documents. Number, RE91 is a letter of intent to lease. When would you use this? If there was a property that is not up for lease and you would like to lease it, you can present a letter of intent to lease. Whether that's commercial or residential, you can use this in either way. I can't say I've ever used this form, but it's there, and there are certain situations which may make it interesting to use. Contract for lease of residential property. Now this one, RE120, you will use. When you are leasing a residential property, this is the lease. So RE120 is your lease. RE121 is a standard generic lease application. We use this application here. We have another one we use as well, but this one's fine. It'll get you started. The rental property condition report, RE122. This is what you walk through with the tenant before they move in and then after they leave to make sure the conditions in the exact same way it was as it was before. If there is a property manager to the property, generally the property manager will do this. If not, and it's an individual you're leasing their place out, you might end up doing this. You just hand them the forms, let them walk around, let them take their time, note any scratches, marks, scuffs, things that don't work on the property. They sign sign and date it, and then when they move out, it's expected the property will be in the same condition. If not, it could be taken out of their security deposit. Lease special stipulations, again, special stipulations. Option to purchase lease property. This is not a lease purchase agreement. This is an option. So this would be a lease option to purchase. Meaning, if I lease your house for 2 years, I might want the option to purchase it for $1.2 million at the end of 2 years because I think it might be worth 1.3, but right now it's only worth 1.1, right? So that's just all parties agreeing that I would have the option to purchase at a price that we'll determine now, or it could be determined at the time of purchase based on the average of a couple of appraisals. Lease commission acknowledgement, exactly what it is. When two brokers are involved, or even a buyer and a landlord and a broker, you'd want to go ahead and have this filled out so everyone acknowledges what the commission is. These are not always used because the commission will be listed in FMLS. You do want to print out FMLS records the day you enter the contract to make sure nothing's changed later on, like the lease rate they share. Amendment and unilateral notice under a lease. So this could be anything from amending the lease or notice to terminate the lease. And unilateral means it's one direction. It's not bilateral. Sale documents. Our favorite part. Okay. RE0110 is special stipulations. That's kind of self-explanatory. RE90 is the letter of intent to purchase or sell a property. Again, mostly used for commercial, but if there's an interesting property, maybe a lot of acreage or something like that, you may want to send the person, if it's not for sale already, a letter of intent saying, this is what I'd like to do with it, this is how much I'd like to offer you, does this sound attractive? Contract for purchase and sale of property, you'll use this form, hopefully, but you will, more than any other form in the system, RE100. This is your purchase contract. Okay? Everything stems off from this when buying a house. So RE100, this is your purchase contract. RE101, new construction contract. You will use this, but not as much because, to be honest, most builders have their own contracts. But if they don't, then by all means, we'll use this. And the difference is it'll have more fields of allowances and things like that for the new home purchase. RE102, purchase and sale of multifamily. If it is a triplex, a quadruplex, any type of multifamily situation, you want to use RE102. RE103, developed lots. A developed lot is in a subdivision, most likely. If it has utilities running to it, may have a street curb, may have a sidewalk, that is a developed lot. An undeveloped lot would be a tract of land, say 20 acres, 10 acres, 5 acres, but just kind of out there in the wilderness off the side of the road. No utilities to it. That is an undeveloped piece of land, so you would use RE104. RE105, the lease for the lease purchase agreement exhibit. So if it is a lease purchase, which means you are leasing it, but you are pledging, you are contracted that you will purchase at the end of the lease, which is different than a lease option, because this option gives you the option to purchase at the end of the lease. On this lease purchase, saying you will lease it and you will buy it, and if you don't, you will lose your earnest money. Legal description, this is a further legal description. RE106 is needed on a property. New construction exhibit, you have a lot of construction exhibits on a new construction. This is the standard one. RE109, a walkthrough punch list. You can use this. Builders will usually have their own. But when you walk through a new house, usually you'll have a couple walkthroughs, but a couple weeks before closing you'll go, maybe after drywalling, and then you just make a punch list of everything that needs to be corrected for the builder before you close. Counter offers. These are the counter offer forms. So if someone sends us an offer on a property we have listed and we don't like, we want to counter offer it, you can use counter offer 1, and then etc. Right? You keep going back and forth. It's a way you don't get a very messy contract with a lot of lines drawn through it, and also by using the counter offer forms, you can use e-sign. Additional pages, if you need to add things to the contract, typed items, you can use RE111. Notice of acceptance date. If you need to give notice of an acceptance date, this is the form to use. Generally speaking, your acceptance date will be listed at the end of your last page of the contract, and you immediately send out a notice to everyone via email, and the email address is within the contract that all parties have accepted the contract, and this is the binding agreement date. So this is kind of not needed, RE265, but if there is any confusion, you can send this out. And a pet exhibit would be for a lease, RE240. Trust funds and termination documents. All right. Agreement for additional trust funds to be deposited. So if, let's say, we need to extend the contract, and I'm the seller and say, well, I'm not extending to this buyer, they've had all this trouble, but they want to put down $5,000 more in the trust, in the escrow, that's non-refundable, then I'll extend the contract. Then you would do this, an agreement for additional trust funds to be deposited. Agreement to transfer trust funds to another party, RE211. See your broker if this needs to be used, which you'd have to anyway. This may be if trust funds are going to be transferred from the brokerage to the closing attorney. Agreement to disperse trust funds. This is when it's all said and done and we need to either give trust funds back to the seller or give them to the buyer. Notice withdrawal to terminate contract, RE263. This is when you terminate the contract. If it's not working out, if your inspection fails, if they've changed their mind during their contingency, you use RE263. RE264, unilateral notice to withdraw of offer. If I make an offer and it's not accepted yet, then I can send a unilateral notice to bring it back. Miscellaneous documents. Let's close these. Bill of sale. You can do this if you are buying stuff like a riding lawnmower, dining room set, living room furniture, even if it's just for $1 or $2 or whatever amount of money it is, you can type up a bill of sale between buyer and seller. Generally speaking, I don't like to put this as an exhibit to the contract because I don't want to make the contract contingent on a bill of sale, and that's something I would have the buyer and seller do outside. Just provide the form for them and let them decide and sign on it, because usually you don't want to get in the middle of a furniture sale. That's not our job. Commission acknowledgement, this is what you're going to sign, RE115. Before you go to closing, the attorney will ask you for the closing instructions, which basically mean the commission acknowledgement, who's getting paid what from each brokerage, are there any fees that have to be withheld. Obviously our administration fee of the $250 would be on there, etc. What will also be in the contract. Home buying process, this is just a brochure, RE146. Agreement to disperse trust funds, this is kind of the same as above. The escrow agreement, this is just agreeing to escrow the money. You don't need to use this form. You don't need RE240, a second pet exhibit. Occupancy agreement for seller after the closing date. We talked about this, the temporary occupancy agreement. RE255 is what you need if the seller wants to stay 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 days after closing, even 4 hours after closing. Get RE255 signed. It protects your buyer and protects the seller. Occupancy agreement for buyer prior to closing. Never ever a good idea. But if you did it, it would be RA256. It gives the buyer a right to live in the house before they buy it. Doesn't sound like a good idea to me. I don't know. What if they don't buy it? Just saying. Alright, so RA260, if you need to give notification to either party, you can use this form. That's the official notification. Any amendment to the contracts, labeled right here, 1, 2, 3, 1 through 5. Amendment during buyer's right to terminate period. You can use this to terminate the contract within the termination period. Independent contractor agreement, you won't usually use this. And confidentiality agreement, sometimes there's need for this. We won't go into the offer broker form and FMLS because you really won't need those. So that is a highlight of all the forms contained within Forms Pro. Most of them you will never use. There's about 5 or 6 here I use all the time. I hope that helps kind of guide you through it. You can always use search and just type in what you need or the number, and it will show up here as well. Thanks for joining us, and for individual comments on each form, please see the according video assigned to each form number. Thank you.